I regret inviting me on.
Tell them the story now.
Yes, please.
Okay.
A week ago.
About a week or two
About a
ago.
week ago.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
That's why he's on camera too.
Why they're in
Wow.
the room. Yeah, we have them in the room.
That's great.
Should the camera be on us? Don't ever ask me that. The answer is yes.
Oh.
Intro time.
Oh, 20 minutes later.
20 minutes later.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Extra
With Benefits.
with your girl
Captain.
and Super.
Super.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And our special guest.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a special guest?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Okay, I'm
You
Todd. Nothing special about me. Oh.
Okay,
Agree to
well,
disagree.
Yes, you soon find out that that's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You are one of a kind.
I like to remain humble.
I feel you.
You know?
All right, so so you came and got a haircut yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, yeah, we have a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
What are we talking about? And what'd you say?
I don't know.
Okay, well let's go down your list.
It's funny. It's funny.
Oh Lord, he's a jokester.
Yep. Do you have business or business idea?
No.
No.
Oh,
Business name?
none.
None.
I mean,
Tell us how your business works.
oh, good.
Dorothy told me to apply.
She just. So, I get my haircut here, right?
Oh,
And so one day she's just like, "Oh, Todd, you should tell Lisa that you want to do the podcast. Send her an email."
What
or
were we
something."
talking about
I
that
don't remember
day?
what we were talking about.
Time
All I
Out
know-
with Todd.
Oh yes, okay. So my podcast that's not really gone anywhere. It's done like a couple of episodes just because I wanted to give it a try. It's a sports podcast. If you guys ever
And
check
it's
it
got a
out.
really cool name.
Time out with Todd. I like it.
Yeah, you know, try to be catchy when I can. So she's just like, "Oh, you should come on the podcast." And of course, I'm not going to tell her no because she cuts my hair and she can easily put a razor here and accidentally cut me. Oh, sorry, Todd, accident. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
Payback for Sweeney Todd.
definitely.
Bringing her
So
out.
you know.
That one needed some like drums. Sweeney Todd. Oh,
You know, I still haven't watched that movie. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, like Sweeney
It's
Todd."
okay.
Like I've never seen it.
It's alright.
yeah, I mean, your
Yeah.
reference to
I've
the
never-
name Todd was.
I've seen it.
Fine.
I've
Oh,
seen
that's
it.
why.
I
Oh,
enjoyed
yeah.
watching it, but it's not something that I need to revisit.
When I was a little kid, I got my hair cut at Sweeney Todd's in Stanford Mall, Connecticut.
They actually have a place called Sweeney Todd?
Yeah.
Mhm.
What?
He was a barber that killed.
Is that what the movie's based on?
Oh,
Is
yeah,
that-
yeah, yeah. It's a barber that killed his,
Yeah.
his clients.
Yeah.
No shit.
So you said razor and then Sweeney Todd.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about bad business practices.
That's another day.
But I know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
The Godfather.
No more money. Just
No
killing
returning
all-
customers.
literally killing all your money.
Hi,
Yeah.
running girl.
I don't
On the
know.
plus
I
side,
think-
on the plus side,
Uh.
I bet you he had no negative reviews.
Zero reviews.
Yo, I bet his haircuts really cut people.
Yeah.
They were so fresh.
Yes.
He did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And put him in the floorboard.
Yeah.
Sweet
literally,
Todd.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da.
Alright, so I mean,
So I guess we could start with your business idea would be Time Out with Todd.
Nice.
Oh, so we're talking about that. So
oh, I'm sorry. Is there another business idea that you
no,
want to talk about?
no. See, this is
What
why
have
I'm
you-
stopped.
what have you
Why are
done to
doing this
promote?
me?
What have you done to promote your business?
I mean, as far as it is, it's just kind of become like a weekly hobby. That's pretty much what the gist of it is. Just
Okay.
because I like talking about sports.
Good.
I'm a huge Miami Dolphins Hurricane fan for down
See
here,
with a shirt. Yeah, absolutely.
lifelong.
Oh,
so.
okay. Get it.
I mean, yeah, sure, good. Yeah, that's why I wore this color. So So it literally was just something, after I got out from the police force, I wanted something extra to do. So I was just like, oh, let me see. It's something that inspired me for a while was sports radio.
Yeah.
There's a radio show down here called Dan Le Batard Show.
Okay.
And I followed him for years. So I was just like, oh, let me see what I can do, what I can get into. And I just one day decided to find an app called Anchor.
Yeah.
And just
You can make your own podcast.
did my own podcast one day.
Yeah.
And the first episode, people are like, oh, this was good, you should continue. And the problem is that I'm not consistent enough. I'll sit here and be like, yeah, we'll do an episode every 2 weeks.
Sure.
And I forget.
Okay.
And especially since I had a kid and all this stuff, my life is really revolved around them. So as far as promoting, it's word of mouth. Or I just say,
That's good.
post
That's
it on
good.
Instagram, and I'm
That's
like,
good
hey,
for now. Yeah. Well, then what do you see are some of your challenges? Like you said just now, how you said you're not being as consistent as you want to be. Is there a schedule you could make for yourself? Do you think you could carve out time when the kids go to bed or while they're at day care or whatever? I don't know how old your kids are.
2 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
new day.
Fairly new.
So then, you could be making your podcast while you're feeding your baby.
I could,
You
but
know-
if I wasn't a full-time manager, managing
Oh, okay.
300
so,
people,
Oh, you're also.
so I'm
working.
literally.
I forget people have normal jobs.
Yeah, no.
I was like, oh, you're one of those working.
Yeah.
What, you gotta go 40 hours a week and do this thing? Okay, I understand. No. So, so then you can just do it as much as you want if it's still a hobby, and then, since you are making money from another place, then it's still your hobby and you don't want to be stressed out by it, then do it as much as you can. But you can also talk about stuff, you're a working professional, you were a cop, you're also managing a baby, which is 24-hour job. So you could also incorporate these things in your podcast. Your podcast can become smaller because it's going to be the consistency that's going to build your audience base, because they're going to forget about you after 2 weeks if you don't put out a podcast. So that's going to be your biggest thing, is working on your consistency. But for now, it's not the biggest priority to you, so you don't have to be stressed about it. But thank you for coming on our podcast, so we can promote your podcast too, man.
There you go.
Absolutely.
See, look at that little self.
So, also a couple other is your podcast about current events?
Yes.
Sports?
So I left that out for some reason. I just think of sports just because I love sports. But so what it was, at least what the mission statement of Time Out with Todd originally was to take a time out with Todd, in a sense where you could take 10 minutes, however long the episode is, and sit there and reflect on current events that are going on. I know I did. This is when the earthquake happened in Haiti, or the hurricane happened. I literally was on there, and I had a family business of mine that was accepting donations to send supplies and stuff. So I put that on the podcast. Luckily, I had 3 people actually donate to it, so it was actually pretty cool.
Great.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. And when I found out from them, they're like, "Hey, we got 3 people. Do you know who they are?" I was just like, "Oh yeah, they're actually my friends."
Yeah.
They said, "Yeah, we donated because you said something." So in that sense, it's for me to give back to the community, because that was my ultimate goal when I was a cop.
Yeah.
Was to do community-oriented policing, serving the community. And then after I realized that maybe policing isn't my thing, and after I reflected on the challenges as a cop to my personal life, I'm sorry, my family is more to me than a job. At the end of the day, I can sit here and say that I'm a business owner, but if my family's not pulling together or working together, I'm gonna ultimately go for my family first. I'm sorry, that's just how I was raised. I don't have much family. It's just me. It's my mom and dad on my side, and that's it.
Wow.
So for me to finally have family growing, that's more of an important thing for me. So for me to have that opportunity to go back to doing what I wanted to do as a police officer, to give back to the community, that was my kind of form to sit there and be like, you know what? We have police brutality going on. We have coronavirus going on. We have all this negative energy going on in today's world. I want to do something to shed light positively and say, hey, you know what? For people that know about why I'm always sad about the Dolphins sucking, I'm going to talk about it this week. Or, hey, we have you know, this is what's going on current event wise. Joe Biden got elected. How does everybody? I mean, I try not to talk about politics because politics is like that slippery slope. Because like, God, if you come on here and say I support Trump, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, that's because you're white, you support Trump. Or if you say you support Biden, it gets that slippery slope where now if you say something like that.
It may get you your followers though.
Oh yeah. Sorry. I have really bad hearing too.
No, it depends on where you want to get the follow. If you want to create this dramatic, you know, freaking Alex Jones type of podcast, then sure, be this like kind of righty type of person or, you know, whatever. But no, it really seems like, yeah, you like sports, you know, you're a family man, you were a police officer. How long were you a police officer?
Less than 2 years.
Oh, okay.
It was a short career. I ended up getting injured on the job, and then
Shit, man.
just from there, it became a mental thing.
Yeah.
I had basically committed career suicide at that sense, where I wasn't allowing myself to expand,
Okay.
and it ended up deterring my performance at work.
Wow.
And you know, the department was basically like, hey, you know, maybe you should reevaluate yourself if this is right for you.
Mhm.
I did, and I said, no, you know what?
Wow.
It's not for me. Especially, I'm glad I got out before I did, because this was before the George Floyd,
Wow.
before all this stuff happened.
Mhm.
And as a white police officer, it was nonstop. I was working in Liberty City, Coral Springs. I was gonna say Coral Springs. Coral City, and in that area, Brownsville. As a white police officer out there with the public, it was nonstop. Oh, what are you gonna do here to kill another black person of our community? And it's just like, no, I'm actually here to help you out. You called 911.
Yeah.
So it basically started eating at me, because I started seeing another side of it, you know, what I didn't want to see.
Yeah.
And I would bring it home with me. And that's something that they teach you, you know, don't bring work home with you.
Yeah. But it's
How?
Yeah.
Pretty hard not
Wow.
to.
Especially the aspect of what I'm saying about law enforcement is, you know, you're a full-time civil servant even when you clock out. But the fact of the matter is, like, you know, you can't take briberies off clock. So another aspect is, how do you turn that thing off as a police officer? You don't, right? You just always have to have that level of on. It's kind of like the last episode of The Sopranos. The guy keeps on looking no matter what he does.
Mhm.
He's enjoying his family, but he's keep on looking at the doors. Why? Because he's always going to be in that lifestyle. I don't know who's going to come. So it's like that. I get that completely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a delicate wire to walk on. And I do know a lot of retired police officers do commit suicide at the end of their careers because it's so much to handle.
Mhm.
Like, they've been doing this for like 20 plus years. And, you know, now you're just, go ahead and enjoy fishing. It's like, I can't really enjoy fishing. And
Knowing
also-
all that I know, but I've
Yeah, so I
See.
understand.
It's not an easy image just to get out of your head either. I mean, it's just that some of the stuff that I've seen. Like, I dealt with somebody that died, got stabbed in the heart, and he threw up Corona. I couldn't drink Corona for a year because every time I smelled Corona, it just instantly gave me PTSD back to that scene. So like there's like little things like that. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So I mean, to piggyback off what you said, it's absolutely right. When I was a cop, I literally had to sit in the back, have my eye on the door, and they train you in the academy, always have your head on a swivel. And like, that's not a healthy lifestyle where you're always thinking somebody's out to get you. It's just like, hey, what are you doing? You got a gun? You alright? What's going on? And it's just like, you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, since then, I still carry a lot of the skills. And I'm not going to sit here and say I regret what happened.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, it happened for a reason. You know, I'm a semi-religious person. And I think that God was looking out for me in the long run. Because all this crap happened with coronavirus and all this stuff. And it was just like, hey, maybe it's not a good time. I know that you want to start a family. Maybe this isn't for you. And since then, I was able to move on. I got my degree. I got married. I got promoted into a really good company that I can actually see myself making a career. You know, if I keep going down this path of doing good work, I can eventually get promoted up to something higher. So, I mean, I'm 28 years old as a manager, managing 300 people with a degree, married, and a baby. That's rare nowadays. So I look back at my experiences in a different light. I mean, especially in my job now, I have the opportunity to bring the less fortunate in to give them a job. You know, so I look at a lot of stuff in a different light. And that's just how I have to look at it. Because if I sit here and say, oh, well, shame on me, I failed. Like, no, I didn't fail. I learned. Made a mistake. I picked up from it. I kept going forward. And that's how I look at everything. So with the podcast, and I'm bringing this back full circle, there's a lot of mistakes. That's my challenges, is that I make my mistakes, but I'm able to learn from it. And I think my thing is I'm fearful that I'm going to fail in that. That's why I'm not so focused on the podcast, because it's just like, well, what happens if this ends up becoming something big? If it becomes big, what happens if I do something stupid that's gonna mess it up? And that's kind of like my fear, and that's the challenge. That's why I don't really promote it. That's why it's just become like a simple hobby at that. So, my bad. I probably spoke like way too much.
It's good.
No, I mean, honestly, a lot of people have that mentality of, you know, if you're doing something that you like and you want to elevate to a degree where, you know, it is very much reciprocating and financially, and it holds a lot of weight in the community in terms of what you're able to broadcast and influence. You know, Todd, Alex Jones, to pick back off for him, granted, he had this little thing, but now it's escalated to so much so that, you know, it influenced a lot of people, even though banning him on the internet just seemed to made him stronger, honestly, because it was like, well, why did you just do that? I need to find out more. You must be hiding something. So yeah, I get that, but it's a growing experience, and you know, you can't always think of like success in that aspect. More like, well, how can I make it better from day to day, or from one podcast to the other, and go from there. But my question to you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, what I was going to say was, I know that it's current events. Do you think that you could commit to once a month? And here's what I mean by that. Take 2 shows on one day. One focusing on the current events, and another one focusing on an entirely different topic. Whether it is maybe a story, or maybe it is something going on with you, or like, you know, family, or, you know, so that something that's not based around current events you can drop 2 weeks after to give you that. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, of course, but the problem, like I said, is, you know, part of it is sports, and especially like when football season picks back up, you have something happening every week. So like, God forbid, let's say with the Dolphins, right? I don't know, do you guys follow sports a little bit at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know Tua, this whole controversy with Tua, where, no?
Right.
Okay, so anyway, the quarterback, so long story short, they picked up a quarterback that last year, basically, they don't know if he's good or not. So now with us going into this season where now COVID's gone, they're able to see practices, spring training, pre-games, all this stuff. I'm just trying to speed through it so that way I can keep your guys interested. This year, there's more coming out that the head coach didn't want to pick up this quarterback, that it was the owner of the team that picked him up. So now they're basically like, well, if the quarterback fails, we're firing the head coach. And, you know, it's kind of like in that sense that how are you going to put that pressure on the head coach when the head coach said, hey, I actually wanted to go after this guy that won Rookie of the Year last year. He balled out last year. You guys failed to listen to me, and now all of a sudden you have an owner of an NFL team saying like, well, yeah, if Tua doesn't live up to our expectations, you're fired. So that's kind of like why I can't, like, I get it. Trust me, I would love to do a month. Like, I think that's great if we do a month. But I just feel like there's going to be so much information to talk about within that month that it's going to lose attention. It's just like, oh.
I think actually you're looking at it the wrong way. Because if you do record once a month, and then you could chop it up, so you're not losing. You said 10 minutes plus. You could chop it up and drop them every, because the other part is consistency. So consistency doesn't mean that you have to show up every week to record a podcast. Yes, you can. And as you get consistent, that's the word we're looking for with it, then at least you're leaving a mark and people aren't forgetting about you. And so that's what Lisa's trying to say too. And also, it's your podcast. It's your podcast. You make up the rules. So I don't care if football's on every week. And like, it's your podcast. You sound like you're like on somebody else's podcast and this is the guidelines and it's your podcast. And then like you're not a shallow person. You have more to talk about than just sports, so it's okay. So like that's what Lisa was saying, like you could record 2 in one day, whether sports and, you know, something to do with, or make it like analogies or metaphors, right? You know, what's going on in sports to what's going on with politics or with Todd's life. So I think that's the other part too. You can do whatever you want with this, and how you describe Time Out with Todd, it was not just sports.
No.
You were taking a break from, you know, how you looked at yourself as a cop, how you see yourself as a father now. Like, you're not a shallow person. You have depth to talk about things. So that's what Lisa's trying to say too is, you know, technically, how serious are you about this podcast, right? You already have good reviews. I know it wants to be hobby. What we're saying is let us guide you and give you the tools where you can stay relevant. So when you're able to fully do it every week like you want to, no one has forgotten about you.
And consistency starts with baby steps.
Baby steps.
You said you're doing a 10-minute podcast.